Hello, my name is Leslie Amerson, and I am going to be giving my informative speech for session 3. My audience tonight is my husband. I have created a PowerPoint to also go along with this speech that I have attached to go with the video. I've given my husband a printout of the PowerPoint so he can follow along. I will also be instructing on which slide I will be speaking on throughout the video, so that way you're able to follow along, since I'm not able to project the PowerPoint during the video. My speech tonight is what is the difference between a migraine and a headache. This topic is very important to me. I have experienced migraines for a lot of my childhood, and I hope that this speech is informative and helpful for someone watching. Have you ever experienced a pain so severe that you feel that you will just die from the pain? Have you ever had numbness in one side of your face? Have you ever had where one of your eyes has gone blurry, or you actually have lost vision? Or have you ever experienced where the whole room is spinning? You feel as though you have a constant ringing in your ears, or if you get up or move that you will faint or be sick. If you've ever experienced this along with having a headache, you've most likely experienced a migraine. On my first slide, I have my main points. What a migraine is, why a headache is different than a migraine, and how to know what a migraine is so you can treat it. Not all migraines are headaches, and knowing the difference can improve your quality of life. On the next slide, I want to discuss some of the different migraines and what they actually are. The one that I'm going to be touching on today is migraine with aurora. Migraine with aurora, and aurora refers to the sensation a person is experiencing before they actually get a migraine. This sensation can actually make you feel as though you're sluggish, you can't focus, you're seeing flashing lights, you see unusual lines kind of like fluttering across your vision, you get a tingling or numbness, and I actually experienced all of these. When I was 8 years old, I was actually diagnosed with migraines. My grandmother on my father's side has them, and migraines can actually be hereditary. When I was in my 20s, however, I had one of the worst migraines I've ever experienced. I was actually taken and admitted to the hospital because I had lost sight in my right eye. I lost feeling in the right side of my face, and I was sick for 3 days. When I got there, the doctors actually told me that the migraine I was experiencing was migraine with aurora, and it was so severe that it was basically a mini stroke. This prompted me into doing a whole lot of research about migraines, and that's how I learned about what migraine with aurora was. After I learned what the symptoms of what a migraine feels like before you get one, I've actually been able to discover more ways to help prevent them. On the next slide, I have how to treat a migraine. Unfortunately, the most effective method for treating a migraine is to prevent it. Migraines are actually caused by food or extreme social anxiety, things like that. But what triggers my migraines is actually food. My grandmother's was triggered by chocolate. I couldn't imagine not being able to eat chocolate, so I'm very thankful that that's not my trigger. But mine is actually dairy. I have to be very careful about drinking milk or eating ice cream or cheese. And even though a lot of times you can't always tell if there's milk in something, it is hard to prevent them sometimes, but I do really well after knowing what my trigger was. Most people, food is a trigger, such as lunch meat. According to Heartline, some of the other triggers can be lunch meat, can be additives, can be artificial sweeteners, things like that. Mayo Clinic actually has done a research on migraines and headaches and the differences, and they also backed up the fact that food can actually be a trigger. The other trigger is emotional anxiety, things of that nature. I know that it's very hard to de-stress, and stress actually does cause migraines, but if you are experiencing a season of stress in your life, it's very important to stay hydrated and to make sure you stay away from different foods that could trigger it. The other way to most likely that can benefit treating migraines is taking prescription medications. I know that several people have used Botox, not for fine lines and wrinkles, but actually to help treat migraines. I haven't really looked into it a whole lot. I just recently discovered this as I was researching for this speech, so I was kind of shocked to hear about Botox, but I do know of other medications such as Imitrex and things like that. The last way is, like I said before, reducing stress. I know that we all go through seasons of stress and it is hard to reduce it, and that's another reason why Heartline website had mentioned it's important to know if a trigger can be food for you. On my next slide, I want to talk about headaches. As I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, migraines and headaches are extremely different. A lot of people think that they've had a headache in their life and they haven't. Not a headache, a migraine, and they haven't. They have experienced a severe headache, but may have not actually experienced a migraine. So some of the things for migraines, some migraines are mistaken as headaches, but not all of them. And headaches are unpleasant pains in your head that can cause pressure and aching. Headaches are normally caused by stress, muscle strain, and anxiety. Although migraines and headaches can be caused by stress and anxiety, it is actually carried differently. I'll go to the next slide. The reason why I say this is because there are different types of headaches. Whereas migraines have aurora or not aurora migraines, some migraines come on like a freight train, which is the non-aurora ones, and the ones with aurora let you know that they're coming. Headaches have two distinct or most popular types of headaches are cluster headaches and sinus headaches. Cluster headaches, which come in clusters or waves and can normally be relieved and then come back. A lot of people will experience these headaches for weeks at a time. They can be associated with stress, like I said, if you're going through a season of stress. But the second one is sinus headaches. I am actually very familiar with sinus headaches, and even myself, having migraines for most of my life, still have a hard time distinguishing if I'm having a sinus headache or a migraine until I realize that it's my allergies. The sinus headache is actually commonly mistaken for a migraine, according to Heartline website. A sinus headache can co-occur with a sinus infection, a stuffy nose, fever, cough, things of that nature. On my next slide, I want to share with you my conclusions. The things I really hope that you take away from this are migraines are not all the same, and a headache is not a migraine. Please take some of the information and look and do some research along with the research I have provided today. It's very important to know that there is a difference, and knowing the difference can make a huge change in your lifestyle. Migraines are extremely painful and can cause your life to come to a stop in an instant. It's important to take the steps to prevent a migraine, such as avoiding food triggers or trying to reduce stress. And it's important to discover what triggers your migraines. If you do find out that it is food, try to eliminate certain things. On Heartline's website, they gave a complete list of different ways and different triggers such that associate with food and ways to help figure out if that could be your trigger. The last point I want to bring in my conclusion is if you're experiencing any of the symptoms mentioned relating to migraines, I really encourage you to speak to a healthcare professional about it. I know that when I had my scary experience in my 20s of being put in the hospital and basically told I was having a mini stroke, it really woke me up. I started keeping a journal and writing down things that I was eating and different symptoms I was having. Now, whenever I'm starting to get a migraine and I'm having the aurora effect, I know that I need to get into a dark room, try to relax, de-stress, and hopefully I can curb the migraine enough to where it won't actually debilitate me for 3 days. I want to thank you for listening in on my speech, and on my last slide, I have included my references for this. Thank you.